Hello, Ripple folks. My name is Ron, or Karma Coverage on the forums, and I'm going to try and make a video here about what even is money. We've got all of this blockchain innovation going on around cryptocurrencies and value exchange and the Internet of Value, and so I thought it might be nice to talk about what even is money. So I'm going to run through a couple of things here. We're going to look at the functionality of money. There's three basic functions. We're going to look at central banks and their role. What is cash, balance sheet, cash on the balance sheet, and what are reserve accounts? And then we're going to take a quick peek at commercial banks and fractional reserve methods and how credit creation and elasticity in the money supply or elasticity of credit is accomplished. And then what is the basis for fiat money? If it's not gold, as some people like to think, what is it? What is the basis for the value of fiat? So I'm going to start here. This is from the St. Louis Federal Reserve, which actually, for people familiar with Ripple, they'll know Greg Kidd, and he was the payments system analyst for the St. Louis Fed. So basically, there's three core functions. We have store value. So everybody in crypto land knows that Bitcoin wants to be store value. And basically anything can be a store value as long as it holds its value over some segment of time. For much of history, cattle, goats were stores of value. Your herd, your stock, I kind of personally think that's why we call it the stock market. We've got a unit of account. So this gets more into just the basics of accounting so that we can, have a divisible unit. It's hard to divide up a cow unless you actually kill it. So a unit of account that can be divisible and passed around is a very useful thing. And then a medium of exchange, which is probably what most people intuitively think of as the use case for money. Everybody's used to paying their bills and getting a paycheck, what have you. So all of that is an exchange of value. So just covering those three things, I want to pop back over here, and these are some of my own phrases. So money does not really exist, only value does. And value is just an opinion. So I believe a lot of people kind of fool themselves when they start thinking about money, and there's some people that unfortunately kind of grow a lust for money. And when you really boil it down, what they're lusting for is for other people to have a good opinion of them. They think, the more money in my bank account, or the more value I have, the more value people have given to me, the higher people's opinion of me is. If I've got a bunch of money, then people think, I'm great or whatever. It's kind of sad. Anyway, so another thing, money is a tool that humans use to work well together. And it may not always seem like it, but humans, one of our species' core strengths compared to other species is we really work well together. And money is a tool that whenever, it's kind of an emergent property. So whenever you get a group of humans, say bigger than around 500 to 1,000, they'll just come up with some kind of money. It could be seashells, it could be notches on a stick, it could be pieces of paper, it could be gold, it could be digital currencies. But it's important to understand that it only is an emergent property of groups of people. Because if you're the only man in the world, you don't have all the money, there is no money. It requires a communal aspect. You can't have money without multiple people. And I might get into this more in a future video, but particularly with the crypto people, there is no such thing as trustless. This is nonsense. all value is a liability accounted for on a balance sheet. All of blockchains are effectively just accounting tools. They're certainly breakthrough accounting tools. But if you get rid of the liability, so like say XRP is a liability of the XRP ledger. I know back in the early days, I think they backed off of it now, but Ripple used to say XRP is a counterparty-less asset, meaning no counterparty. I think people claim the same thing about Bitcoin. In neither case is it true. The digital asset is a liability of the network. Thus, if you get rid of all the liabilities, you hear sometimes people wishful thinking, oh, let's get rid of all the debt and then the world will be great. Well, if you did that, you just got rid of all the money too, and we lost the tool that humans use to work together. So probably I'm going to go on about some of this, and hopefully I can explain why these things are true. I'm going to pull this up. Let's see here. So this is from a video I did a while back. And what I want to do here is I'm going to talk about the central banks. This is a picture of a domestic economy. And this is, I made this video to explain some CBDC stuff. It's a couple years old, but the fundamentals are still the same. So this circle up here is a central bank. And these are commercial banks. Forget the right side of this picture for now. These are commercial banks, and these are citizens and businesses down here. How do I make this full screen? Okay, there we go. So, central bank, commercial banks, citizens, businesses, people, conducting business in the economy. So, let's say you have a piece of paper cash in your wallet. That's an asset on your balance sheet. That's a liability on the central bank's balance sheet. So if you look at a central bank's balance sheet, you'll actually find where they hold that on the liability side. And it kind of goes back to when, cash was gold backed. They would have the gold on the asset side of the balance sheet and the issued cash as a reserve. Commercial banks used to do the same thing. They would have gold or reserve deposits, I'll get there in a second, on the asset side of their balance sheet. And, back in the 1800s, banks used to issue money all over the place. You've actually heard Gary Gensler talking about the Wild West of banking and what have you. He's talking about that late 1800s time period. So, the other thing, let me see, don't lose myself. Okay, so so you've got your cash as a liability up here. It's an asset for the guys down here. That's the you and me's of the world. Commercial banks. Now this is where they actually play a very important role, even though a lot of people like to hate them, especially after 2008. I get it. But they play a very important role because they help the economy breathe in and out. I'm going to get to that in a minute. So commercial banks, they have an account, and they have to be licensed to get an account, for a reserve account at the Fed. Now, the Fed will loan reserves, and the commercial banks can actually make a market between themselves for reserves in the Fed's account, on the Fed's balance sheet. And when you hear people talk about, oh, the Fed funds rate, they raised it, they lowered it, or what have you, basically they're talking about the interest rate that these commercial banks pay to get access or lend or borrow reserves on the central bank's balance sheet. So then you've got the commercial banks practice fractional reserve banking. So the general examples are, okay, you have 10% of the money up here in the reserves, and you can loan out 90% down here, yada, yada. No, that's from the CBDC thing. So let me pop over to here. Oh, where did it go? Bear with me. I'm not used to doing these videos, but I'm trying. So here's another example. Let me tell you where the source is. So this is Perry Merling. I believe he's at Boston University now. Absolutely excellent. He's got a great video series on YouTube. Highly recommended. Read all of his books. But I've done some posts on XRP Chat where I borrowed some of his diagrams because I thought they were excellent. So in his world, forget these red letters. I added that. In his world, your central bank is money. That's this is the peak of money. And then you've got the banking system somewhere in here, and then you've got the private sector. So the key money is effectively a liability on the central bank's balance sheet. The banking system, then where did that other thing go? The banking system, that's kind of your reserves account or reserve accounts that the commercial banks have. Then, due to fractional reserve banking, where's the other one? So you have your quality of money, that's your central bank up here, and then your quantity of money, which goes out to the left or right. And so your commercial bank deposit, because all the money's not in the bank, that's why we have risks of bank runs. There's more money because there's credit creation when they make loans, because you don't just want all the money sitting dead in the bank. It's best to loan it out to someone who can create economic value, and then the whole economy does better. But you lose, like, a commercial bank deposit is not as high quality as a piece of cash in your pocket. That's why when you have a bank run, people want to get their commercial bank deposits out and turn it into cash, therefore going up the quality spectrum. And yeah, so like back in the day, you used to have gold on the central bank's asset side. You'd have a central bank. The exchange rate's fixed for the banking system. They issue paper dollars or whatever, coins, something. Then those get deposited into the banking system. They kind of guarantee that a bank deposit at a commercial bank is worth $1, the same as this, which kind of rolls back uphill. Then I'm going to skip the securities. Let's just call this loans. Then they loan out the money. There's an interest rate. It's got to get paid back. And so everything ultimately ends up getting connected. I think this is probably the best one to be looking at right here. Let's see. Try and pull them both up. I was making with these red things digital assets and stable coins comparison to how all this works. So it's important when they're the reason the gold standard is not going to ever come back again, and it's just crazy to think so, is because the gold standard means we only have one tier of money, gold. So you lose all the elasticity of the money going out to the sides so that the economy can't breathe in and out. When you have a growing economy, you're going to have more money getting lent out. You're going to have more economic activity. Everybody's going to be thriving more. When you have more of a pullback or a recession, there's going to be the central bank will raise the Fed funds rate or whatever it is in various countries. Same principles apply to all the countries. They'll raise the interest rates, which will like move the line from here to here. So your money base shrinks. That makes the economy not as vibrant. But the key point is you have to have the elasticity so the economy can breathe in and out with the money supply. Um, trying to make this video as quick as possible. But so then, and I don't have a slide for this, I'll pop back over to here just for the sake of it. So if you've got just fiat money that's basically not backed by anything but a central bank's balance sheet, that's people get nervous, right? That's understandable. And they get scared of like what just happened in Afghanistan. So in Afghanistan, the central bank of Afghanistan, they've floated all this currency out into the economy, and then with this pullout, the assets on the central bank, the Afghan central bank's balance sheet, the gold, the deposits they had at American and European and other banks around the world, all of that got frozen. They're not going to get the gold. And so you have a currency collapse. Like it's the worst possible. I mean, even if you pull out your money from the bank, you're getting pieces of paper, but then the central bank collapses and the whole economy collapses. And it's going to be terrible what happens over there. But that's what everybody's scared of. So you have to say, well, why would we do things like this? It doesn't make much sense. What's backing the fiat? So I lost an argument on XRP chat about this, but I learned a very significant concept. Two-part. One, I kind of knew, which is we print treasury bills, right? Like we make people lend the government money, and then the government has to give it back to them. All right, so that is a way of creating money across time, and finance is all about time. And then fine, but then you have to ask, well, why does this money, why does this fiat have any value whatsoever? And it's because what backs the treasury bills is the fact that you have to pay your taxes. Because the way the government's going to get the money to pay the bondholders is they're going to collect it in taxes. That's not too complicated. Then what you have to realize is that the taxes, like, so you have to, it's almost like when Ripple was first starting out and you've got this chicken and egg problem, like where's the supply and demand coming from? Well, the supply, obviously the central bank can just print it, right? We just saw a whole lot of that in the last 2 years or so. But where's the demand side come from? Well, the demand side comes from you have to pay your taxes every year. And so every year you have to have some of this fiat cash in order to pay your taxes so that the government can pay the bondholders. So that's kind of rounds out that picture, and you can, there's your supply side on the central bank printing, your demand side on the treasury collecting, and that rounds that out. And I'm going to go ahead and try and wrap this up.